So we'll jump into After Effects and we'll drag in our footage into our project folder, drag our footage down onto the new composition button, and let's actually create a LUT for this so that we can see it in the right color space. So what I'm going to do is Control-Alt-Y to create an adjustment layer, and I'll apply the Lumetri color effect. So under Effects and Presets, search for Lumetri, and drag the Lumetri color effect onto this adjustment layer. In your Effect Controls panel, under Basic Correction, set your input LUT to Custom, and pick the LUT that I provided for you. I believe it's this one. And it's looking a little bit dark, so let's bring this exposure up to, let's bring it up to 2. So as we toggle on and off this adjustment layer, we'll see our color gets applied. So it's very important, we don't want to color this ourselves in visual effects. Coloring is a stage that happens after visual effects. So this adjustment layer is just for our preview. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to name this LUT. And I'm also going to set this by right-clicking to, I'm going to set this to a guide layer by right-clicking and hitting guide layer. And this means we're going to see this layer in our viewport here in After Effects, but when we actually render this out into a final video, this layer is not going to be applied. So it's going to be rendered out in this raw color space. So let's drag in that EXR that we rendered out. And you'll see this render is on top of our LUT layer. We don't want that. We want the LUT to be on the very top here. And you'll see now it's a lot higher contrast because this LUT, actually I need to turn it on. It really increases the contrast of our render because that's what the LUT is doing to the footage. So we need to bring down the contrast on our render so that it looks correct in this image. I'm going to delete this first render, don't need that. So on the second one, I'll go to my Effect Controls and we'll apply the Levels effect. So I'll bring down my white point until it looks correct, and also bring up my black point. And it might take a while to apply these changes, so this is when I like to switch to quarter view. It updates a lot faster as I'm making these color adjustments. So I'll just bring the white point down until it is not appearing overexposed, and I'll bring the black point up until it doesn't seem overexposed. This is kind of where you have to eyeball it. And this is also something that the colorist can adjust if you provide a matte for your CG, which they usually like to ask for. That blue is coming in really strong, that blue skylight. So I'm actually going to apply a Lumetri color so I can fine-tune this color a little bit more myself. And there's kind of a balance between the visual effects artist and the colorist, how much coloring is done. It's the visual effects artist's job to get the CG render looking as close to the footage as you can, and then if the colorist wants to make further adjustments, they can ask for a matte so that they can just fine-tune the color on the CG itself. But let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can help the colorist out by getting it as close as possible. So I'm also going to bring down my saturation to about 50%. And I think my black level is just a little too high still, so I'll bring this down a bit.